Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Sydney Sweeney, who plays Cassie Howard on the hit HBO series Euphoria, season 2 of which is available now on HBO Max. It was a monster hit for season 2. And this is, Sydney, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
This was such a transformative season for Cassie, I would say. Like so many, her relationships changed, obviously with Nate and Maddie and Lexi. When you first heard from Sam Levinson, like where he was planning to take Cassie, I guess what was your initial reaction to that, and like what were your thoughts?
Everyone's gonna hate Cassie. I knew it. Like, oh man, people are gonna be very upset with her.
So I know I've seen other interviews with you. I know you do so much like research with the character, like you're kind of building out like a whole life for her. So before you even get the scripts, then are you already like thinking of how, like, yes, like people will not like her and stuff? Like, how do you kind of like prepare for what is coming, I guess, from a performance standpoint before you even get the scripts?
I kind of just, once I find out how much time has lapsed between the two seasons, I like to fill in the blanks. And so once I found out that there's about like 2-3 weeks in between season 1 and season 2's timeline, I just kind of fill out every day of what Cassie's life would have been and what she would have been doing and how she would have been feeling. And then that way, right when I start, I'm kind of ready in the right mindset for Cassie.
It's fascinating. So you mentioned like people would obviously not like her. I think the thing that's so interesting about the show and your performance is I think it comes to a point of the audience definitely, I think, understands where she's coming from. And while she, the arc of Cassie, and especially in the finale, which we'll talk about, and it's so wonderful when she's like, I'm the villain, basically, like, but you really feel, I really felt like empathy for her and like, you kind of really understand. So I guess like, knowing, how do you like manage that and kind of like not making it too, I guess like, how do you kind of keep that balance and making sure you're getting that across in the performance?
Well, with Cassie, she thinks and does everything from her heart without actually using her brain. So everything is just, it's so emotional and it's so heavy on her. And I think that's where people kind of felt the empathy, where you knew she was just truly going and moving with her heart and she's going to get hurt. So I just wanted to make sure that everything she did was so truthful and so honest and so just deep within her, where you start to just cringe because it's so sad but so beautiful, because it's coming from a good, honest place, but it's just not the right decisions that she's making.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scene, I forget what episode it's in, but like you're in, Cassie and Nate are together in his car, I guess, and he says like, oh, I really like you, and your face like lights up, and it's so heartbreaking because and the next line is like, he's like, but we obviously can't be together or whatever, I'm like paraphrasing poorly, but and the way you just you crumble, and it's just like I'm just fascinated by it. You do such a great job of conveying like the ultimate optimism that she has, and like, and then at the same time it just, and then it keeps kind of it's like she continually has this hope that it's not going to turn poorly. And I just find that so fascinating. Like when you're shooting a scene like that, like where you have to just so quickly change emotions, I just find it incredible. And your performance is so touching, and like really, it feels like you're getting so much across without even having to say anything. And I guess, can you talk about like that and like kind of, like how you are able to accomplish that?
I've always believed that the eyes are the window to a character or anybody's soul. And so the best moments and what I enjoy the most is when I get to just listen as my character. And Cassie, because there is so much going on within, when I get to just sit there and kind of digest everything that's being said to her, that is when I just let it affect me. I don't have to think about anything else other than what truly is being said to Cassie as Cassie, and I let it just come out however Cassie would be affected.
Yeah. It's really great. Obviously, the season was like a monster hit. I think it's like HBO's biggest hit since Game of Thrones or something. So it was like a cultural phenomenon. Every weekend, every Sunday night, just tons of memes and stuff. Cassie had like the best memes, and obviously like the Oklahoma sequence where she doesn't realize that she's maybe dressed like she's in Oklahoma. That was I still see that like every day on my Twitter feed, and people like sharing that meme. I think it was Brian Cox, I think, spoofed it. So it was like obviously like a really big deal. The thing I love about that scene, beyond just like the meme of it, is that again, I think in another actor or another show, I think you would play Cassie there would be played to like you're laughing at her. But the show really, and especially your performance, I feel like you're not laughing at her, and it's such a fine line. And I feel like you take her seriously as a performer, and the show does too. And I guess, can you talk about like being able to toe that line? Because I think, again, like I said, like it's easy to imagine a world where she's just a punchline in that scene, but she's really not. And it's so great. And I think you really have, the show has such a respect for the character, I guess. And I guess, can you talk about being able to do that?
Where that's a lot of the respect was the respect I have for Cassie, and not just like, oh, I respect Cassie. It's just, I truly wanted to feel what she feels and try to understand what she's feeling, because I didn't want to take lightly any of the choices that she was making. And so by me making everything a serious matter and not making a joke, I think that is how it was able to convey to an audience and have them feeling exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Do you, when you see that become like, I mean, I can't imagine, like, who knows what's going to stick, right? Because like the world is so, you never know, it's going to like permeate culture. But when you see that coming, and like, I'm like I said, like I still see it is that like, I mean, that's got to be very strange, I would imagine, to see like your character memed basically. But I mean, like, what was your response to that?
It is, because that scene particularly was the first scene that we filmed back for season 2. It was the first thing we ever did coming back. And so I had to map out so much of the season, because that was episode 3 and it was the first thing that we were filming. So I had to kind of map out Cassie's roller coaster of her arcs to make sure that I would somehow get to that point correctly and seamlessly throughout Cassie's episodes. So it was one of those scenes that was like the first thing, and so you kind of forget that you did it because it was months and months and months ago, and then I see it in the trailer, and then it came out and it was everywhere. I was like, oh my god.
It's really great. And it's another moment, I feel like, and like I said, the finale, but Cassie gets these incredible emotions. And it seems like, I remember before season 1, I think Sam was talking about how he was influenced by like Magnolia and Paul Thomas Anderson. When I watched your performance, especially this season, I was like, it just reminded me so much of like Julianne Moore in that movie, which I think is like an incredible performance. And she's got this, she's so like a raw nerve, basically. And I feel like Cassie is like that so much as a performer. When you're having to hit those kind of emotions, I guess, how do you do that without like losing yourself, and how difficult is that? Because I like in that scene, like we're talking about, and just many others, like Cassie is so, like wound up and so emotional. And I guess, how do you like kind of make sure you're not like, how do you like detach from that, or how does that work for you as a performer?
I create these character books that allow myself to kind of separate from my character, so I'm able to jump in and out of a character the moment the director calls cut or action. And some people say I'm a little psycho and crazy, because I'll be doing a crazy Cassie scene and I'll be screaming and crying, and then they call cut and I'm normal, and then I can go straight back into it. So there might be a little strangeness to that, but it allows me to go home and be okay. And having these books that build somebody else, I'm able to not have to think or plan anything. I know why they move the way they move, or why or how they would react with someone saying a certain thing from memories from their past, and it allows me to just kind of live within themselves in a scene.
It's really great, and I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's also why the performance feels so natural. I just feel like it's like effortless when I'm watching you in the show. It feels so like realistic, and it's like really, I think, a credit to that.
Yeah,
Then,
no,
because
I don't like to rehearse, and I don't plan anything. So it kind of just, whatever Cassie does, it does.
yeah. So it was mentioned earlier, the finale with Lexi's play and stuff. I rewatched that before we spoke. That is probably my favorite episode of the whole show. And I just the sequence when Cassie comes up on stage is just absolutely remarkable. It's so funny and it's so heartbreaking. I was like tearing up too, because she's like so sad and like kind of heartbroken. But then you have the incredible just Maddie from the audience. It's just so funny, and you guys screaming at each other. I just broadly, what was that like? I mean, it's such an elaborate scene and stuff. What was that like to shoot and like to like do, I guess, first?
It was many days of piecing different parts together. It was it was really funny because Maud and I, even though our characters butt heads so often, and especially during those last 2 episodes where Cassie just wants to rip her to shreds, Maud and I could not keep a straight face to save our life. We just kept laughing and laughing and laughing, and I think that added to just how much fun we have on set and how free we feel with each other. And so it allowed me to just kind of let loose with Cassie and let her feel all of her rage.
So great. You have before the scene starts, you have to walk in and it's a slow motion walk, I guess. Like, how many times did you have to? It's just so great. It's just like awesome. I love that.
Not that many times. I did not have to do that walk many times. Not too many times.
So we talked a lot about like Cassie and stuff. How do you like, I mean, you obviously like care about the character, like we said. Like, do you not approve, but what do you like? Do you think of like, oh, do you try to like, I mean, you understand where she's coming from, but what do you think of her decisions throughout season 2? Are you just like, she's trying to make it work? Like, how do you view that, I guess? Like,
I try not to judge her or any of my characters as like Sydney, because then I feel like I'll put my own biased opinion and twist on them. So I kind of look at it from an actor's perspective of, oh, this is so cool to be able to go to these places as an actor and explore these different emotions and scenes and relationships. And I try to separate my own judgment from her.
You mentioned the relationships, and you talked about Maud, obviously, and Lexi. You also have like Jacob and like that relationship totally changes for Lexi, for Cassie, excuse me, this season, and then also Alexa and Maddie. Can you talk about working with like, yeah, Jacob and Alexa in those different capacities from where you were with them in season 1, I guess?
Oh yeah, I had some scenes with Jacob, but this season we definitely got to work more together, and I really enjoyed it because he's such an amazing actor. And it's so funny to see so many people hate his character, but he's such a kind person in real life, and I feel so bad for him. But we had this like just beautiful chemistry that we felt safe with one another, and I think truly explored Cassie and Nate's relationship and dynamic, because it's such a turmoil but yet beautiful thing. And then Cassie and Maddie, I mean, Cassie just kind of messed that up for herself completely, and I missed it because I loved doing so many scenes with Alexa, and then it was funny having to be so scared of her this entire season.
Yeah, she's very intimidating. I think I'm glad you mentioned the Cassie Nate dynamic, because one of the things I really liked about it too is that like Nate is such like, he's like a scary character at times, right? Like obviously he's like, so he seems almost sometimes like is like, obviously he's got so much trauma, but he seems like a sociopath at times. But like there's a scene, I forget what episode it's in, but like Cassie is kind of like just like dressing him down a little bit, and I feel like he's like, I think he's like in his bathroom or whatever, and it just is, again, it's like no one talks to Nate like that, and I found that so fun to me to watch that dynamic play out, because I do think Cassie is like throwing stuff at Nate that he's not at all used to, and I think that dynamic is really good.
Completely, and I don't think Cassie's used to it either. I think she's learning that she has this power over him, and this power of manipulation that she never knew that she had, and she's kind of toying and playing with, and she's really enjoying it.
So you had so I doubt you've talked about season 3 and stuff, but do you like sit here and think about like what could happen in season 3, or like do you have like hopes that what would happen with Cassie?
I don't know. I when we finished season 1, we knew we were getting picked up for season 2. I had all of these ideas that I thought was going to happen for Cassie, and then I was completely thrown off by what Sam told me was going to happen. And of course I loved all of his ideas way more than mine. I was like, this is why you're the creator. And so I think that I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens, because I really enjoy being shocked and surprised and never knowing what's going to happen next with Cassie.
Yeah, as a viewer, I definitely don't think anybody could have, like, so many different things in the season were very surprising and like really cool. I wanted, before we wrap up here, obviously you also had White Lotus this year. It's a totally different flavor of performance, but I also nonetheless loved it so much, and you were my favorite, honestly, my favorite character in that show. And I guess like when you have like that performance is getting like, I think was pretty widely critically acclaimed in the show, and then obviously Euphoria here for season 2. I mean, at this, getting those kind of like, I feel like, I don't know, like, how do you feel as an actor and how people are viewing you as a performer now off of this season of Euphoria and the White Lotus? Because I feel like from my perspective, it's like you are incredibly exciting young performer, and I guess like you get the sense that people are thinking, or that's coming back to you as well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's definitely incredible to see people's reactions to the different shows and the different characters, and just hearing people, like you just said, be like, I loved Olivia, and that is an amazing and incredible feeling and feedback that I get. But I just hope that I can continue to do good work and good characters and that mean things to people and shock people.
Yeah, I think I hope so too, because like I said, as a fan of your work and the stuff you're doing, I hope so as well. Sydney Sweeney, who plays Cassie Howard on Euphoria. All the episodes are streaming now. You can watch them on HBO Max. Thank you so much, Sydney. I appreciate it.
Thank you.